What's up, Addicts? I'm Michael.
And I'm Josh.
And today we're doing another game review of a very manly game called Lovers in a Dangerous Spacetime.
Yeah, it is pretty manual, especially when you look at the graphics for the game. There's hearts and bunnies everywhere.
You gotta get the hearts to rescue the bunnies.
Yeah, it's great.
I don't know how to really describe the game.
It's a side scroller.
It's a 2D game.
It's not technically, it's not a Metroid type game. I guess it is kind of a Metroid type game if it was set in space on a ship. You know, because it's not like some of the old ones that are set in a ship where you're flying around and you're dodging stuff, but it's more of like
you dodge stuff in 2D.
you dodge stuff, but it's the way like the shooting and stuff works is more, I guess, like Metroid, where you can go around behind you even or in front of you, basically a 360 because your ship is a spear. But it's just, I don't know, it's really different. I don't think I've played any kind of ship like it because it's kind of like a, I guess, quote unquote mothership, I guess if you could call it that, because you actually have space for more than one person, and that's like a heavy emphasis of this game is co-op and being able to work with multiple players to achieve things, because each system of your ship is operated by a person. So like somebody has to operate the engines, somebody has to operate the guns, somebody has to operate the shields. You know, it's a very like you need 4 controllers in play if you really want to have an ease. But if you want to challenge, you could be like us and just have 3 people.
If you are really good at the game, you may be able to play with 2.
Yeah,
right.
Maybe 2. I don't know, because it's the way it works. It's actually it's not necessarily, well, it's still challenging, but it's not as challenging when you have the max amount of people. But it is really interesting because when you have less people, the more tasks each person has to do. So like when we were playing, I was navigations, and so I piloted the ship, and I also did the map typically. Michael, you did the shields, which some instances I praised you, some instances I cursed you, but it was, in the end, it was all worth it. Then we had our buddy Colton. He worked the guns and sometimes the ultra. The ultra power attack was kind of a free for all, and whoever could get to that.
Ulti. There are bosses. So there's levels where you basically explore and rescue captives, and you have to rescue the bunnies or whatever to get to a certain number so you can get to the next level.
It opens. The more hearts you collect, it opens up portals that you can go to the next stage.
So there are bosses where like your ultra would do more damage, but we never really got one where the ultra was totally awesome. And another thing that's awesome is you can augment your ship with different gems.
Yeah.
So you have spike gems, power gems, and beam gems. Mm-hmm. And it actually augments both your guns, your engine, and your shield, and your super. So you get all those things augmented.
And depending on how many bunnies you collect or to get hearts, those will unlock upgrades that you can get to where it can upgrade the capacity of how many crystals or power beam or metal gems that you can put on each component. And then it'll also kind of buff those abilities or certain combinations. You can unlock different ships that will already come with certain gems right off the bat. So that's interesting. Also, there's different kind of variations of the ship to where you can have the guns set up different ways, which personally, we used the base one the whole time because we thought it was the best. The other ones were just not as good, in our opinion.
Yeah, or more difficult. There's one where the ship was spinning counterclockwise while we were moving, and I was very confused. My brain hurt from that one.
Yeah, because typically how you would have it is, this your ship would be like this, and then you would move the stuff on the outside, like the shield would move, and then the guns were fixed in like a cross system. But there was other ones, like for instance, it'd be like more of a triangle system where there would be 2 guns down here and 1 gun here. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't.
And I just want to talk about the diversity that you can build in with the gems is super nice, because for guns you can have rail gun, and you can have like a double rail gun using, I think it's the beam gem, and then you have even spikes on the guns you can use, which make super weird guns that are underpowered in our opinion. And then you have power gems where it's like 4 different, like a machine gun of like 4 different shots.
Yeah, experimentation is your friend in this game because you really want to figure out what combination of gems
Suits your play style. Yeah. We did not like the spike gems at all. We used them on the engine.
Yes, that's the only useful thing because if you put a metal and I think it's a power gem on your engines, it not only makes it a little bit faster, but it actually puts like cattle prods or those not cattle prods, but those like railway spike things that can hurt enemies if they get in the way. So that's cool.
But yeah, that was kind of the even with the Ultra, it was more beam and power gems that we used. It was the spike gems always kind of were disappointing when we put it on the shield and everything.
I will say though, the final boss. Well, there actually is a boss that is a bass, which is kind of cool because the bosses they're made out of constellations, and so you actually fight a constellation or a manifestation of the constellation. But on the very last boss, we actually used a metal ulti, and it actually killed it.
Yes, I remember
it's
that.
one of those where its range is terrible, its retime speed is awful, but the power level of the attack is actually pretty, probably one of the best, I would say. It's just really hard because you have to really time them. So, like Michael said, there's a lot of different experimentation to that. I would say overall, anything has a use, or depending on your play style, like we said, some gems might be more precious to you than others. As far as progression goes, we did pretty well.
Yeah, I liked. I can get right into my rating because I don't want to make this video super long, but the one thing that I didn't like is the lack of replayability. I mean, you can play with different ships and all that, but like once I explored the world and all the bosses, I was like, I don't need to play this anymore. I mean, it could go all spike ship just for fun, but the replayability, at least for me, I'm sure maybe for other people who really like implementing different ships, it would have a good amount of replayability. But for us personally, once we finished the campaign, we didn't really pick up the game again that much.
Yeah, that is probably one of its lesser aspects. You have to be really into the game to dive into it. I think it's maybe one game if you waited a long time and then came back to you could play through it again, but because it does have a fun aspect to it. But it's mainly just one, like Michael said, like first time run, it's really good. But after that, maybe falters a little bit. For me personally, I give it a like it. It's not the best game, but there's a lot of cool things about it that I really liked it. I guess you could say the animations and the colors were pretty cool, seeing that. And then it was really fun working together. I think that's probably the most I've screamed at my friends. Most of the time I do it online, but yeah.
That couch co-op is really great. I really like that element of the game. I mean, it's pretty much the only way you can play it is couch co-op. So I really like that part of it. I would probably give it a little bit higher. I'd say it's worth it. If you have someone who can play video games with, if you have significant other or like a couple of family members that you can play this game with, the proper age to do so.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. I think it's worth it. It's not something you'll probably go back to or play a ton, but the experience would be worth the cost of admission. Which again, this is a free game on Xbox.
Right. That, it's definitely.
But I think even if you had to pay for it, it's worth playing.
Yeah, I think something like the base price or like the normal price is like around $15 or something like that.
I think so.
But at least I know on Xbox I've seen it a couple times go on sale and they sell for like $8-9, and I think that's a steal on this game just because of how good it is.
How long would you say the campaign is? We were bad.
We played it, I think maybe 2-3 hours at a time. And we played it once a week. So, and I think it took us like 4 weeks or something like that. So maybe around 12.
Yeah, 8, 10, 12 hours.
Something like that, yeah. So it's not terribly long. Of course, again, that goes depending on your co-op abilities and stuff like that. But I would say you can get through it relatively easy. But it's a game that's worth taking your time, too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that pretty much concludes our review on Lovers in a Dangerous Spacetime. We'll be doing more gaming reviews coming up shortly on the channel, and if you have the money or the time, pick up this game and play it with some family and friends and yell at each other.
It's going to definitely, it's the next game that's like Monopoly.
Yeah, yell at each other in a fun manner. Yep. And don't get too frustrated if your engine guy goes straight into a wall.
It's not my fault. You son of a...